Good morning, everyone. We're so glad you're here. We hope you've had a good week. I know I missed being here with Rachelle on Monday, but enjoyed the show with Andrew Easton as our co-host and Al Kingsley as our guest. Today, I'm looking forward to talking with our friend and fellow EduMatch author, Alexis and Terry. But first things first, Rachelle, how in the world are you doing?
I'm great. It's great to see you. I'm trying to look at my calendar to see when the last time was that I saw you, and I think it was August 2nd. So it's been a little bit. It was
it?
Yeah, we had Josh.
I feel like
Josh,
you just have,
Josh
I don't
Stamper.
No,
Yeah.
that was not the last time. I feel like you just have too many things that you forget that we were just together.
Nope.
Surely,
because
it was.
We didn't meet up last Friday because I was part of that Technovate that Carl Hooker got some of us grouped into doing some presentations last week. It was the Napoleon Dynamite theme. It was so much fun.
How did that go?
It was great. I mean, just the titles of the presentations. I didn't get to join in anybody else's except for the keynote in the morning because I had, my sessions, and then we did a closing activity with Carl and a couple other people. And it was just fun to see the posts on Twitter because they had challenges. So people had backdrops with them sitting with Napoleon Dynamite or things like flippin' sweet, or you can eat those tots or something. So all week, it's still in my mind. Yeah. Gosh, mad skills and so forth. But
yes,
it's nice to be able to do that. And so
do you have a link that we could watch that? Or is there a link you could share that?
No, because it was for a specific school district and it was just all of their teachers. And I think that they did record them, but I think it's just for you, the internal kind of use within their district. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just, yeah. So
it does. It sounds like a lot of fun. Tell Mr. Hooker that he needs to do that for the general public so we can enjoy the general public of educators so we can enjoy all of this good stuff. But and it was great. I got to actually be an audience member and watch you with Al Kingsley last Monday. Right. It feels like a year ago, but it was just a few days ago.
Yeah, and with Andrew and me trying to do all the things, and then Andrew's the scavenger hunt game was kind of fun. I'm not going to lie, trying to find things nearby so we can add that into our medley of games.
Well, we should do it if we have a lot of people. I wanted to play too, but you couldn't see me. And I was really oh man, I can't play. It was a fun game. It really was a fun game. So today we have, is your mom watching? Hi, Marianne, just in case she's watching. Today we have a wonderful friend on. She is a fellow EduMatch author. Do you want to say any kind words about her as well, Rachelle?
Yeah, I got to meet, we got to all meet right last February when we got to spend the 5 days together in Nashville. And it's just, I absolutely love Alexis. I had so much fun getting to know her. And of course, I admire the work that she does and everything that she brings. So look at that. The shirt. Now I feel left out. Now I need to get
Well, I went and got coffee so I wouldn't feel left out with you guys. I wanted to make sure that I had my coffee.
Mine's empty. I need more.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is so good to see you, Alexis. And it is so funny because I don't always remember who's coming up. But when I was packing for our trip, because we are not in Alaska right now, if anybody cares, I'm not in Alaska, okay, at this moment. But I came across this shirt and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to take that. Not even thinking, I maybe my mind already knew because I'd already scheduled our stream that it was coming up with you. But I just grabbed it and put it in. And then I was so happy last night to find it, wear it today. Be real, love hard, teach truth.
Yes. Be real, love hard, teach truth. That is really, the work that I do. That's what it's all centered around is, showing up and creating these safe spaces where all students are seen, they valued, heard, empowered. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Camera
Heck yeah. Tell us what projects you're working on. And do you have your book? Because I'm not at home, I can't show my book, but do you have your book close by? Awesome. And that came out just last year. Are you celebrating your first year birthday? Book birthday?
June 26th was my birthday. It was my birthday. And it kind of came and went by so fast that I realized, I was like, but at that time, me and my Twisted Teaching team, we were just in a professional development mode where we were putting on PDs for school districts. And so just kind of that has really been the major product. I mean, you guys know summertime is when everybody wants the consultant services, everybody wants the professional development. And so, you know, me and my awesome team, we just got through just really focusing on creating culturally responsive and relevant social studies classrooms and just working with teachers to kind of get them ready for back to school. And so now I am really just coming out of PD season. And before I start teaching again, I'm just really in this, I guess the most important project that I'm working on right now, which has been the funnest one, is being a mom. And it really just really getting to enjoy the blessing of this season. I can, you know, count on my hands how many first day of school pictures I have, or like usually it was like, oh, hey girl, can you send me those pictures that you took of my kids when you dropped them off? But now it's so fun to be able to drop my kids off to school in the morning, make sure that they're up and that they have breakfast. Now sitting in a 1 hour, I think our car pickup line is like an hour and a half wait now. That's not fun. Yeah, that's not fun. But yeah, so just really the biggest project that I'm working on is just really just being there and being a blessing and a support to my family. I'm getting ready to leave and go help my husband set up his classroom. He is an English 3 teacher, and I think he has journalism this year. And then he's also a head basketball coach. So yeah.
Wow, you got a lot going on.
I think you said a lot about like what I know. I struggled with that as well. You know, having to get pictures from other people, being so focused on what I needed to do for my classes, it was really hard to get involved in the first days with my kids. There's just so much to that. And I love that you're enjoying, you know, where you are. What are you like? Are you going into teaching? Like, are you still doing, you know, like college classes? Or are you doing, I know you were doing like high school, college classes, right?
Yeah. So at one time I was doing the dual enrollment. I was working with a college and teaching high school students. Now I am strictly working with, so I'm working with Relay Graduate School of Education, where I'm already a content instructor. So I teach social studies methods for them. But then I'm also taking on some curriculum writing with their curriculum writing team, because they're also going through a major revamp of just trying to bring their curriculum up to the goal of equity and inclusivity and cultural responsiveness. And so that's been a fun project, just providing consulting services to their team. And then also teaming up with them to lead some professional developments. So it has been a definite ride. But I think one of the biggest projects that I've taken on lately that has given me true joy is coaching and inspiring other edupreneur moms, other moms who they have this passion for education. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to use their teaching or education talent to make them some extra money. But then how do you not get so caught up in the edupreneur world that you lose joy and sight of the blessing that God has given us and our kids and in our families? And sometimes it gets to this point. I know I found myself the first year, I was miserable. Because I had, I want to do everything over here. And, you know, I want to be on this webinar, and I want to be on this live stream, and I want to design this course, and I want to write this book. And, you know, I just wrapped up a summer with Our Voice Academy, OVA. And that was one of my keynotes, was just talking about, you know, every book, you know, so I'll take you back to the story. My little Benjamin, he is 2. And he has this thing where, you know, we went to the library and we checked out, like, we had to have like 40 something books. I have those kids that go in the library and they're picking up all these books. And so they go in the library, pick up all these books. And literally we read one book. And it kind of really, when I sat down and I thought about it, I'm like, okay, so we're getting billed for all of these books, and it didn't make it any better. It was the church library. So now we're stealing from the church library. Right? So we're in debt to the church over library books that we've only read one book. And so it kind of brought me to think about what a lot of us edupreneur consultants, we get so caught up focusing on I'm going to change the world. I'm going to share my story. I'm going to tell my story, that we miss out sometimes on the other stories or the other books that we've checked out. So my mission has really been not to tell edupreneur moms that, no, you can't do that. You can't consult, but it's to help them find balance. So what are some easy tips and tricks and strategies that have worked well for me that will allow you to create the space where you can show up for your career and your passion, your excitement to educate and transform classrooms and academic spaces, but at the same time, be present and available to your family. Tell them I said hi.
Can you tell that I'm talking with my kids?
And it's perfect.
I love it. And I love what you're saying, because definitely, I feel it. It resonates with me very much. And when I'm on your socials, you are just radiating with joy lately. I absolutely love to see that glow. And I know that you love what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I am so happy for you. And when we talk about like the projects that you're doing, you're doing a lot of work with culturally relevant teaching. What are some things that you would like to share with educators like right now that are either, watching us live or going to check out this replay?
Yeah. All right. So it comes down really, when we look at culturally relevant and culturally responsive teaching, it really comes down to, and I think it's been so watered down, this phrase, get to know your students, that people are just kind of brushing it off like, oh, okay, whatever. I know my students. I know, but it's really about building. So first off, knowing your students for who they are, the families and homes that they come from, the communities that they come from. And when you are learning the who about your students, what obstacles are they facing? How can you support them in overcoming obstacles? What assets are they bringing into the classroom? And how can you use these assets to transform the academic experiences and opportunities that they have in their classrooms? That's what I mean by knowing who your students are. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel that talks about who my students are. And so when I talk about who, it's WHO, not World Health Organization, because we're tired of hearing about them right now. But it's, what do I know about my students? So when we think about who our students are, and I think this is foundational to culturally relevant and responsive teaching. What do I know about my students? How can I use this information to transform their academic experiences? And then what obstacles are my students facing or that they're passionate about? And how can I use my content area, my subject matter, to help them problem solve solutions to those obstacles? And honestly, bam, that is the route to creating a culturally relevant and responsive classroom. But it really comes down to, it's not just about, oh, I gave my students a survey and I looked at the survey, but every day in your classroom, are you making intentional efforts to connect with students' families, connect with students' communities, and understand the cultural language that they're speaking outside of your classroom? And how can you use those languages? How can you use those assets? Because all of our students come into the classroom with an asset, right? And so instead of thinking that, oh, these students don't know anything and I have to teach them everything, that saviorism complex, instead we should be going on this quest. What do my students know? And how can I now minimize my workload, because they know so much that all I'm doing is tapping into this rich resources that they are and bringing that into my instructional practices. Oh, you didn't lit my teacher fire.
I'm on mute.
Yeah.
I love it. You just lit me on fire. That is amazing, and I love it. And I'm gonna put this up here again. I think that is something that we don't normally talk about as much, but knowing our students' assets and what they're bringing. And we talk about deficit, speaking, deficit language, and we talk about like the things that our students are lacking, and we talk about that way too much. So we hardly ever find out what our students' assets are. I love that. And I know Rachelle does that amazingly with her classes. And that's how she's so wonderful to put this technology. Like, you guys are just, both of you, you can, like, I know that's what Rachelle does. She matches technology with her students' assets. And I love that you are saying that, Alexis. Do you have that video, that YouTube that I could drop in the comments? Could you find it quickly?
Yeah, I can pull it up now. If my computer crashes on you.
We'll just talk about you till you come back on.
Yeah, yeah, just talk about me until I come back on. I'm going to drop it right now. I'm pulling it up. And I'm just hoping that while I have my YouTube up in another window, nothing funky comes up. Because sometimes my playlist can go from Hillsong Praise and Worship to Nipsey Hussle Gangster Rap, and it's okay.
We just got a couple more viewers, so keep talking. Just random things like you don't know what you're going to get when you tune into us on Thriving EDU,
right?
Yeah,
and then we're all full of coffee.
And then what?
I said, and we're all full of coffee, so that doesn't even make it any better.
Yeah, I could always use more, but I will go back to what you started to say at the beginning of, and I was trying to just listen. I was very quiet, just listening. But especially this time of the year with teachers, I mean, everybody, administrators, whoever, trying to figure out the best ways to get to know the students. And, in the past, that might just be like, we lost her temporarily. We'll talk
She'll
about
come
it.
back.
But
We'll talk about her till she comes back.
Yeah. But doing some different, icebreakers and stuff. And like, that's not something that I did for a long time. I mean, because like my experience was, all right, first day of school, here's the rules, here's your papers, here's syllabus, notebooks, all of that stuff. And, we'll get to know each other throughout the year. And that's what I did for many years of teaching. But with all these options that are out there now, like I really try, especially last year, not being in person, fully virtual, like, how do I get to know the students? How do they get to know one another? So using those spaces, like, I mean, I talk about Buncey all the time because I could create, here I am, here's some fun graphics. The students could create it, put it all in one space. Flipgrid was great for that because then, getting to see and hear each other pronouncing names, like that is key for me to tell students, okay, look, I want to hear your full name, like pronounce it. How do you say it? Because like, you never know, there are so many different variations. And I mean, my name gets mispronounced all the time, but I kind of let it go for many, many years. And friends will step in and say, no, that's not your name. And of course, now I froze. It's okay. It'll catch up. But like little things like that, to know somebody's names, getting to know what their interests are, what the activities are that they involve themselves in. And then it helps throughout the whole year because whenever you provide opportunities for students for learning activities or assessments, you can provide a lot of choices that will meet their interests and experiences and backgrounds and whatever. So it is definitely critical. And it's nice to have, I mean, non-tech options, of course, because technology doesn't always work. But in the way things have been since schools closed last March, to have those technology options available that we know, assuming that all students have access to those, that we can make the connections happen and build those relationships.
Yeah. And the one thing I like to tell everybody is you have to be mindful about, because like I said, again, we look at relationship building as, oh, okay, I'll build relationships with kids, but we have to go back to the why. Because with our relationship building too, it can honestly become pointless if there is no intention. And the end game for relationship building is really, so like me, my relationship with Melody and Rachelle is all about how can I bring out the best in you guys? And your relationship with me is how can you tap into me, hey Kitty, and bring out the best in me? And so culturally relevant and culturally responsive teaching, and I hit on this, it must yield academic success. It must yield academic success. It must include having high expectations for your students. So really, you're knowing your students to know what bar they come in, because some of our students come in and they have this bar for themselves, whether that bar is low or bar is high. Their identity and how they perceive themselves and how they engage in your classroom and engage with your content is based off of this bar that they've set for themselves. And so we need to know the bar that they've set for themselves. And then how can we now increase that bar for them, but then also scaffold learning opportunities and experiences to help them reach that bar that we set. So the relationship building is really centered in intentional efforts to know what my students need, what they bring into the classroom. How can I use this in a manner that is going to yield academic success? And I got to be intentional about saying for that student. Because, for example, Melody, if you've always been a DF student, right? Academic success could be a C. for you. You have been successful, and we need to celebrate that win. You know, I could always have been a B student. Academic success for me could have been an A, or academic success could have been me getting 14 questions out of 20 correct. You know, not even looking at the grade, but looking at the skills mastered. I'm able to speak in an academic language now. I'm coming in and I'm showing new social emotional skills. Another thing that we miss about culturally relevant responsive teaching is that critical pedagogy component, right? And so that now they're building up students' critical consciousness so they can go out into our world and be change agents. And so it's not always about, I always say it's not about the heroes, holidays, and hip hop. All that stuff is good. But if what you're doing in your classroom is not building up students' confidence, leading to academic success, and giving them tangible tools that they can use outside your classroom to change the game, then what you're doing is not culturally relevant or responsive, because it should be like, kids should be like, oh, bam, you know what? I know how to take this math concept and apply it to when I go down to the corner store and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Or there's this issue going on in our community, and oh, okay, now civic engagement makes sense. That's important for me to know, because now it helps me look at my community through a new lens. All of our students come into, you know, somebody told me the other day, oh, my students, they're just not interested in that stuff. They're not interested in that stuff. And I'm like, about what stuff? Well, they were talking about politics. They're not interested in all that political stuff. And so I said, well, elaborate. What do you mean? Well, they want to know about what jobs are going to be afforded to them when they leave school. And I said, oh, really? And is that not political? So they are interested in it, but the way that they talk about it and engage in conversation about it is in a different context. So now we have the responsibility as educators to make that connection, to say, oh, yeah, no, you didn't think you were really interested in this, but let me show you how this here and this here actually belong together. And if we fix this, or if we use this to address this, this is where we can see change. And that is where now it becomes relevant. You know, I think that, and see, y'all done got me started, and I'm going to take over the dang show. But I think that when we look at.
Wait, stop for a second. I'm trying to type this out. Because I love what you're saying, everything. I just want to scream amen. So it's good that I'm on mute. It says we have the responsibility as educators to make connections for our students who we're looking for the future. What are we connecting? I want to put this in a good comment.
So our content, we are connecting our content, our concepts, our skills to their realities. And so here's the thing about, I tell people, when we look at the word culturally relevant and we look at culturally responsive, I think sometimes we are digging too deep into the word. Like, it's literally what it means. Everybody comes into the classroom with a culture. White, black, brown, green students, non-binary, cisgender, heteronorm, we all come into the classroom, Christian, non-Christian, with a culture, right? And so how are you responding to the culture that they came into your classroom with? Just as simple as that. But you got to get to know your students to know what culture they are coming into the classroom, and you need to respond to that cultural need. You know, I tell a lot of people that when people say, well, and I heard this from my students, oh, I'm white, I don't have a culture. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Are you white Christian? Are you white non-Christian? Are you middle class white? Are you upper class white? Are you lower class white? So you have a culture, you have a cultural language. So we still need to know and speak that cultural language. And then relevant. How are you making your content relevant to their cultural needs? Whether that is social, whether that is emotional, whether that is academic, how are you making your content and how are you responding to their cultural needs? So that's why it's like, really, when it comes to, I think what I really want educators to walk away with understanding about CRT is a case-by-case basis. There is no coverall. There is no checklist, right? You can't say, oh, I did this, and I did this, and I am culturally responsive. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the intent, it's about the impact that is had on students. And if your students are not leaving your spaces feeling empowered from what you're doing, then why did you do it? Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna sip my coffee.
Mel's busy typing, and Mel's muted. Mel's still muted. Yes. Yeah. No, it's trying to keep up with all that she's saying. No, you're dropping like so many pieces of wisdom and reminders and points that will help teachers, especially entering this new school year, if they haven't yet, to reflect on a lot of things. Because, I mean, I don't know, just in my own experience for all of the years that I've been in the classroom, I mean, we all have a certain way of like presenting content or interacting with students or activities that we do to get to know students. I mean, there's so many practices and methods and things that we already have that we're comfortable with. And so it does make it more, I don't want to say difficult, but just it could be uncomfortable to try something in a different way or to open up possible conversations on different topics that have not been part of your practice. And so that, for me, a language teacher, I kind of have that opportunity. It's already there because we learn about a lot of different people from around the world in places where Spanish is spoken. So my students get to explore issues that are happening in all those places, make comparisons with our own school community, locally, globally. And it kind of it helps in that way because I can, create a space where students can go and learn about, I don't know, kids in Bolivia, for example, or we look at Argentina. But then by some of the opportunities I create, like project-based learning, where students are independently exploring issues that they are passionate about or that they're curious about, then that even helps, at least with my comfort too, because, the students are bringing in their own, what they've learned, their opinions, perspectives, and it fosters more conversations within my classroom where I don't have to be the one directing it, but I can be the one facilitating it. And that also, I've noticed, has helped me to feel more comfortable with it because it can be uncomfortable to talk about some of these different things. I mean, especially when we don't know everything. Like, we're classroom teachers, we're not the experts. I mean, it's not possible. But a large part of what we do is continuing to learn and grow and reflect on our practice. And so everything that you said, and Melody was frantically typing in there, I'm glad that it's in there because we can all, whether we're watching now or having the conversation here live, can go back and think through it and then be mindful of that, more intentional about that as we head into our classrooms, not just like one day a week or at the start of the year. It's just like an ongoing process.
Yeah. And one of the things, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like, one, we are not in this business to teach students what to think or tell them what to think, right? We are here to teach them and guide them on how to think and how to think critically and intensively and how to make change. It is perfectly fine. Let that baby come on, make change and impact in the world, right? So I saw something on Twitter, and I mean, I'm on Twitter. I lurk on Twitter. I look at tweets, but I really don't engage because, to be honest, the space and the energy sometimes out there is like, I'm not trying to receive this because what we receive is what we're going to put back out into the world. And so, but I saw something, and I guess it's something parents are sending letters to a principal or to their teachers and saying, don't ask my child this and let me see a lesson plan and all this other stuff. And so there was one thing that kind of stuck out to me where it was saying that the parent said, don't ask my child their pronouns or don't give them the option. Let them tell you what they want to, and people were in uproar about this. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't fazed by it. And the reason why is because I do agree. And this is what we have to move away from, because honestly, when we come into the classroom giving students, this is the option on a survey, right? Then we're taking away, now we're putting them into categories. And the whole thing is to break down these walls, right? And so what do you want me to know about you? Because I think at the same time, we have to be mindful about not forcing ourselves onto students and forcing ourselves into their space. And frankly, some students may come into our classrooms or their classrooms not wanting us to know their pronouns because they don't fool with us like that. So why would we put a paper in their face demanding that you tell me how you identify? I don't have to tell you nothing right now about how I identify until I get to know you, especially on the first day. And so we have to have enough respect for the students coming in their classroom to understand in the same way, Melanie, I'm not going to meet you and go to coffee with you and say, you know what, Melanie, and I've been going through this, and me and my family, we've been going through this, and I want to be seen like this, and I identify like this. And it's kind of like, well, this is the first day. How would you like it if I sat down with you to have coffee and I popped out a survey and said, Melanie, I need you to fill out this survey? But through genuine opportunities to build those connections, I'm going to know if I am intentional about connecting with you, I'm going to know what you want to be called. Because you're going to feel that warm and that caring demeanor to say, you know what? I can go to Miss Alexis and I can tell Miss Alexis that this is how I identify with, right? Mm-hmm. If I set the tone to say, hey, I don't want to come in here and be the sage on the stage or the holder of all knowledge. What do you guys want to learn? These are my teaks right here. I tell people in professional development, stop, drop, and roll, right? So these are my standards. What do you need me to stop with, right? What do you need me to drop? Like, we don't even really have to go over it. And then what are those things, those standards that you notice, we can just kind of roll over it, but we don't really have to stop. But when you look at the stuff that students want you to stop on, then that's when you can say, okay, now how can I, again, go back to, all right, what are you guys interested in? What are some things going on in your community, in your world, that asking very, very vague questions to just see kind of what you get out of it. And then you take the things that they said, okay, yeah, I'm interested in this, I'm passionate about this, and then say, okay, hey, now these are the content standards or skills that you said you want me to stop and teach. How can I take what you want me to stop and teach and connect it with the issues and stuff that you said that you're passionate about? But I think that we come into our classrooms making these assumptions. Like, there was a question in a PD that my husband was telling me about. I'm like, what? Who said what? And the question was kind of like, what jobs look like your students? What? What do you mean, what jobs look like my students? So you're telling me, because I know where you were trying to go with that question. So you're trying to say, okay, that if my students are Hispanic, that they need to be in auto mechanic industry. So no, the jobs that look like my students are doctors, lawyers, cosmetologists, scientists, engineers. So don't give me that question talking about, oh, well, you need to structure your job, your classroom based on the jobs that look like your students.
Right. Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I told you guys, you got me going.
No, can we play a game? Rachelle, do you need, I want to respect everybody's time. Can we play a game, or do we want to, like, this has been so good. I want to say that, like, I feel so inspired by everything you're teaching us today. And I mean, like, when I get inspired like this, I just want to write. I want to share it with the world. And I mean, like, this is the best conversation that we could have at the beginning of the school year. It is the absolute best. It's better than talking about tech. It's better than talking about, like, you know, anything I can think of. And it's wonderful. So okay, it is hard to switch. So it's hard to switch from being so serious and then playing a silly game. So we will do that another time, because Alexis, we will have to have you back on, because this has been such a wonderful, wonderful experience. And tell us where can we find you the most?
Oh man. So you can really find me the most on Instagram at Life After Lessons. Honestly, like I said, I love teaching. I love impacting and inspiring educators with building culturally relevant and responsive classrooms. And I mean, if you want to know the teacher educator side of me, check out Twisted Teaching. But if you really want to know the human side of me, and what I bring into spaces, then follow me at Life After Lessons on Instagram. And that's where I really speak to, you know, edupreneurs, educator moms. I'm just helping them find balance between what they love to do and the families that they love. Oh, that was a great.
I love it so much. Heck yeah, this has been one of my favorites. Thank you so much for joining. I want to say thanks everybody for tuning in, and I hope that whether it's been live or you're watching the replay, that you feel empowered to really look at your students and just think what they're bringing that is amazing, and what they can contribute, and how Alexa said, how we can connect that to the world that they want to walk into and really impact, because it's not about our intentions, it's about the impact that we make and the choices that we make as educators. So thank you all so much. As if nobody has any last words, I don't want to take it away from you, but I want to say goodbye, and we'll see you on Monday. Rachelle, who do we have on Monday?
Monday, we have Amy Shaw from Pick-a-Pack. So we're going to talk about social emotional learning and play games.
Awesome. What a great follow-up.
Right?
All right, everybody, have a great weekend. And thank you so much for joining us today, Alexis. Bye, everybody.